Witam wszystkie osoby, które są z nami w pokoju oraz te, które będą oglądać nas live. Ja się nazywam Lena Bielska, jestem prezeską Fundacji Herstory i mam przyjemność wprowadzić Państwa na nasz pierwszy webinar inspiracyjny, który współorganizujemy z Fundacją Ashoka w ramach projektu Sztama w edukacji na rzecz zmiany. Projekt ten realizujemy z dotacji Aktywni Obywatele Fundusz Krajowy, z dofinansowania z funduszy EOG. I naszą pierwszą gościnią będzie Daniela Maudeth Valdivia Gutiérrez. Mam nadzieję, że dobrze przeczytałam nazwisko. Założycielka inicjatywy Huellas Futuro, która pracuje z chłopcami i mężczyznami w Boliwii i dzisiaj podzieli się z nami dobrymi praktykami, wiedzą, umiejętnościami, wszystkim, czego się dowiedziała w trakcie swojej pracy, z czego my możemy w Polsce skorzystać, ponieważ projekt Sztama również skupia się na pracy z chłopcami. I nasz dzisiejszy webinar będzie prowadzić Wojtek Mróz. Wojtku, możesz pomachać, żeby się zaznaczyć, że jesteś. Dzięki bardzo. Mamy też tłumaczenie na polski, angielski, polski. Tłumaczy Marcin Turski. Jest również z nami Magda Gach, która tłumaczy na polski język migowy. I to wszystko. Zostawiam Was z Wojtkiem. Jeśli pojawią się jakieś problemy, pytania techniczne, zapraszam na czat i będę się starała pomóc. Dzięki bardzo i życzę dobrego wieczoru z Danielą. Bardzo proszę, Wojtek, mikrofon dla Ciebie.
Dziękuję, Lena. I will be speaking in English so that Daniela will understand me. And what is important, if you have any questions during our conversation, please write in the chat. You can write it or type it in Polish or in English, or you can also raise your hand so that I will see that. I'm a co-director of Ashoka in Poland. We are the biggest network of social entrepreneurs working in 90 different countries. And in 2018, one of our Ashoka Fellows was Daniela. Daniela, are you with us? I don't see Daniela. Is she with us? Everything okay?
Yeah, I
Daniela
guess
musiała
she was
wyskoczyć.
disconnected for a minute. I just let her in, so please.
Let's wait for her.
A second, yeah.
Jest z nami już Daniela.
Sorry, I don't know what happened.
Hi, Daniela. I just said that you were elected as Ashoka Fellow in 2018. As we know, for many years, you are changing much of society in Bolivia into a society of respect. In particular, your efforts are to stop gender-based violence. You work both with women and men and with different partners like police force or military. And we are very curious to hear your story. I will ask you questions, and hopefully not only me, but also the people that are with us. So I'm very happy that you are with us. And could you start and tell us how you started and why you started to do it, what you do?
Sure, thank you very much, Wojtek, Martina, and Maria, and everyone who's organizing these. I'm really honored to be here with you guys. I have a lot of love for Poland and people from Poland, and yeah, so it's a pleasure for me being here and telling you about my project. So what Huellas Futuro has already 10 years, so that's the 10th year of our NGO. It's an NGO, which is similar to a foundation in terms of well, we are a non-profit organization, but there are some things that are different legally in the structure. I would say like a foundation is a bit bigger and an NGO can be also smaller. Well, we started because I was actually studying law. I'm a lawyer, that's my background. And we, well, I realized as a girl when I was in school, I come from a small city, and I realized like I was not able to play soccer, for instance, because I was a girl, or I was told several times not to do this or not to do that because I was a girl. That was very disappointing when I was a teenager. So it was a challenge for me. I actually was playing soccer with a cap and just pretending I was a boy. And then when I was already doing some internship in the justice spheres, I remember like all the judges being men and just, you know, secretaries and other clerks being girls or just females. So I was like really shocked by the way that the world is kind of led by men, and that's okay. I have no problem with it. It's just that women are not given the opportunity, and that's why I'm striving for it. Like that's exactly what we are trying to achieve, that there is an equal opportunities for everyone. Yeah, that's how we started. We just gathered with some friends that were thinking more or less the same, and we decided to found it was at the beginning an association, and well, afterwards it turned into an NGO. And at the beginning it was just doing some activities, raising awareness, very like volunteering, and not receiving any money, not making any money, which was actually not sustainable. But then I decided to turn it into my way of living. And I thought, I'm completely sure those that make war and start wars and armed conflicts, you know, the militaries, people who sell drugs, or for instance, do human trafficking, they are very well trained. And I thought, you want to do something good, you have to train yourself, you have to learn, you have to research. Yeah, so that's how I ended up doing this for a living. So that's what I do for the last 10 years. Yeah, I don't know if you want to go deeper. I rather let you ask me and then I just continue, because I can talk a lot.
Yeah, sure. It's very, very good to hear you. So we started 10 years ago, right? And where are you at the moment? So what happened during those 10 years?
Well, we are now one of the most important NGOs in our department. In Bolivia, we have 3 main cities or departments, which is Cochabamba, Santa Cruz, and La Paz. And we are in one of those. We are located in Cochabamba. I could say we are a referent for violence prevention as a civil society organization. We are part of the main networks against violence, against human trafficking, and we have now the credibility to do what we do in a much larger scale, which is exactly what I would like you guys that are hearing to learn, how to increase your impact, how to make your impact larger. Yeah, well, that's how we are right now. And we've also discovered along these 10 years that we were doing on the right path on one hand, but on the other hand, we learned how to complement our work, like how to, with the experience that we were gaining, we realized, well, this was missing. We have to do this way. We've learned from other institutions. We've learned from different courses, mentoring, and these capacity building processes that we've been doing with the people. And yeah, and now I can say we have a lot to give away. We have a lot to show, to teach, and that's what we'd like to do. We'd like to share our experiences in order to replicate or scale our methodology, and yeah, and try to make a larger impact.
Great. I'm thinking if Poland and Bolivia are, in terms of culture and mentality of people, quite similar based on the culture or not. Probably Bolivia, please let me know if I'm correct, is also Catholic country as Poland. Now in Poland, we have very conservative politicians working. I know in Bolivia that there is a culture of macho, right? And what's your opinion? Do you see similarities between Poland and Bolivia?
Well, we are a secular state since 2007 because we changed our political constitution. And but before we used to be a Catholic state, as you guys are. I've been in Poland in 2014, I guess. It's a beautiful country, I must say, and beautiful culture as well. But I've seen a lot of similarities. Not only because of religious, because I wouldn't say I'm religious myself. Well, I'm more spiritual than religious, but I would say this is not the only aspect of chauvinistic mindset. But I would say it's completely similar. I don't know exactly the rates on domestic violence in Poland. Maybe you could help me. But I tell you, the city where we are working, where we are based on, we are in the first place in femicides in the whole country. We are on the 3 top countries with domestic violence in Latin America. We are the second in sexual abuse against women. So it's really huge. Like the culture we are living in is, you don't realize, and I would say it's because we don't visibilize the chauvinistic culture, something we are all used to, and we acknowledge it and we just don't pay attention. So the main task, I would say, for any people that would like to work on prevention for, violence prevention or gender-based violence prevention should be raising awareness. So that's something I noticed when I was in Poland and with my Polish friends and as well in Bolivia, that people naturalize those chauvinistic practices, patriarchal behaviors, symbolism, violence, and we naturalize this because we're not aware at all. I don't know what's the case in Poland, you can help me with it, but in Bolivia we got a law to prevent gender-based violence or to protect women in 2013. So that's not long ago. It's just 7 years, or about 7 years. So yeah, I see those similarities, and I would say it's not only the case of Poland, but I would say we really share these chauvinistic commonalities with whole Latin America, with Europe, East Europe. I would really see that this problem is a global issue. That's why it is within the SDGs in the global agenda, because it's a global problem.
Sure. Well, I'm interested that you told us that raising awareness is one of the most important things, probably at the beginning, but also after 10 years, this is something that you still do. And what would be your examples, ideas to start raising awareness at the moment when you don't have a lot of funds and a lot of resources? And probably, like, for example, in Poland right now, we have a media with the unlimited funds that can say something against what you think is important, how you can start from the scratch.
Well,
maybe you could give us like few examples what you did.
Sure. We have like a 5-pillar model to address gender-based violence, and I will just mention all of those 5 pillars, and then I will talk about raising awareness. It's raising awareness, legal and psychological assistance, rehabilitation, capacity building, and empowerment of women. Which empowerment was in the last 3 years that we developed this pillar, because before we were just on the 4 previously mentioned. But what we do with raising awareness, I must, and we all must acknowledge that social media is a powerful, very powerful tool. And it's cheap, if not for free, because you can do it for free and you can try to share with your friends and ask your family and friends if they can just share it and like it. And then you're gonna create a certain traffic, and it's working really good. Like you can reach, I don't know, like 1,000 people in a week. That's a lot for free. And if you invest something, I don't know how much is in Poland, but you can invest $1 in Bolivia, and in one day you can reach 2,000 people. already targeted. Like they are already targeted by Facebook, for instance. So what we did at the beginning to raise awareness is very important that we let people know what violence is, because we might have an idea what violence is. Like it's maybe screaming at someone or maybe beating me up, or but I'm not sure. And if I don't know, then I cannot prevent it, or I cannot identify it. I cannot identify myself as a victim. And let me tell you, even knowing, you can become a victim. So what we do, we start, that's the first thing we do. We work in a system within the school system. So because you have students, you have parents, you have principals, you have teachers, you have administrative personnel, you have local leaders, and it's like a small microcosmos, right? Because you have different actors from these different sectors, and you can work with all of them as a system. So that's why we picked the school for our main stage.
Yeah, I sorry for interrupting.
Sure.
I imagine it's not so easy. I imagine that the child goes to the school, hears something from you or from the trainers that work with you, then they go home, and their parents or their father say, oh, come on, listen to me, I'm the one who knows how it is, right? So I'm curious how you can communicate to those different actors, or you do it at the same time, or you do it different channels. So this is very important for me, but also I would like to say to people that join the webinar here or on Facebook, to ask questions, so they can join our conversation, and it would be not only between me and you, Daniela, but also with them. So how to communicate to different actors, like different communication to parents, to children, to men, to women.
Well, let me tell you how our strategy was here. So we work on public schools. We have private schools and public schools. And public schools in Bolivia, well, they have not a lot of funds, so they don't have psychologists at all. Like they really lack this very important tool on their system. So we go to the, let's say, education ministry in Bolivia, the regional one, and we say, hey, we can cover this. We can provide you with psychologists for free, but we need you to agree that we go on a 2-year intervention. And it was a great deal. Of course, we had to fund the psychologist, but it was a great deal because we had kind of a green light to do the whole project, to start the whole project in public schools. So it needs to be simultaneous. The intervention needs to be simultaneous. You have to start, I would say, you always pick first the representatives. Let's say representatives of parents, representatives, well, principal, of course, representatives of teachers, representatives of students, because sometimes there is a kind of a board of students or a board of parents or a board of school, which is already gathering all these actors. And you show them the benefit of the project. And you talk with parents, telling them you're going to help with I don't know, like with raising your kids. I'm sure you're having problems with this because they are teenagers, and we're going to help you providing with psychologists, and maybe they are not with good grades, or they are having some issues with other students, and they say, yeah, great. So we go to the principal and to the teachers, and we say, hey, there is a problem here. You might see that some kids are not performing properly in school, they are not coming regularly, or they are coming beaten up or with bruises in the face or whatever. So we want to find out what it is, and we want to help you with the families or with the parents. And they say, oh great, that's awesome. And then we go to the students, and with the students it's easier because they are told to hear to us, and then they must attend the it's not a class, but it's more a workshop. And the intervention must be really simultaneous because of what you just said. We have to tell the kids what violence is, and we work on 4 different categories of violence: sexual violence, psychological violence, physical violence, and misogyny, which is more or less patriarchal practices. And we talk to them, we tell them, like really very illustratively with pedagogues and everything, what is this kind of violence? And then we tell the same the parents and the teachers. So they all know what we're talking about, and then they realize. And we do it a lot with art, work a lot with art, because that's the way I would say it's very sensitive. You don't go and break into the lives of people, and you don't embarrass them, you know, like we really use very sensitive tools. And the kids start realizing, for instance, if you say to someone, hey, not talking to a person is violence, they would say like, what? It's not possible. And then I come up with the example and I say, hey, you sit here with your classmate every day, and the classmate gives you sometimes pencils or some sheets to draw, or he wants to talk to you, and the person or the classmate never talks to you. How do you feel? And the kids go like, yeah, I feel bad if he doesn't talk to me, or she doesn't talk to me, or do not want to talk to play with me. And then I say, yes, because not talking to a person or not acknowledging a person can be also a way of violence, psychological violence. And I say, it's exactly the same when mom cooks every day for you and you always eat and you never say thank you. So they kind of awake. It's like, oh yeah, that's true. So that's the first point of raising awareness, really showing the people what violence is. We work at these 4 levels. Our law particularly has 17 ways of violence against women, but we use only these 4, which I would say gathers already the whole forms of violence. And then when they know, you can work on that basis. When they know what violence is, what an act of violence could be. Yeah. Sure.
I have a few questions from people.
Sure.
And one question from me. Maybe you can answer my question later. I'm very curious how you convince principals and schools so that they can hire psychologists. As I know, Poland, Polish people always say we are okay. So if I will tell them I will give you a psychologist for free. I don't need a psychologist. Probably it will be the answer from them. And the question from that I have in the chat: why and how did you start involving men in your work, and what challenges do you face in this work particularly?
Okay, I will answer first your question because that's the easiest one. I would say you show principals and teach. Well, I didn't approach the principals first of all. I told you I went directly to the top, to the education ministry regional, and I said, yeah, you guys don't have psychologists like a normal school, because private schools do have one, and we're going to provide with one. And it was like, okay, great, that's perfect. Because if you show them that you need it and you can make their job easier, then they are going to agree. If you tell the principals in Poland, like, don't you think if you would have some person that could, I don't know, like solve the problems between teachers and teachers, teachers and parents, students and students, or students and parents and teachers, would be easier for you. Like you wouldn't be there mediating everything, because you will have a psychologist that has been studying for that, and then they will realize it would solve or alleviate somehow the problem they have. And I don't know if that answers your question, but we can come back to that. But regarding the involvement of men, that was for me very important, because I realized if we only, and that's what I saw when I started, I saw a lot of initiatives and programs and projects that were aiming to abolish gender-based violence or to eradicate violence against women, domestic violence. And I realized none of those projects or programs had men. And I realized it's hard, because when you go when you go to talk to, let's say, parents, the males, the fathers, and they hear, oh, we are going to talk about gender-based violence, they're like, oh my God, no, again, and they just leave the room or something. Then you realize they were very forgotten in this process. They were left behind. And this makes you feel really not part of anything. If you are left behind, if we gather all women right now and make a breakout room and we talk about doing something, then we come back and we tell you what we are going to do, you will feel left behind. And that's why I thought we must involve men. It's not just we have to do it because it's nice, because it's polite, because it will help. No, it's a win-win to involve men. If we involve men, then we've solved half of the problem.
And how to involve them?
Well, how we started with children. That's easier for me. And you were asking before, and I didn't come to this part yet, about low budget and how you can start initiatives that are not so expensive or it doesn't take much effort to accomplish. And what we did is we went to boys, only boys. Why do you think? Well, we first of all we talk about the issue of femicide, like, because it was very bad. There was a time in Cochabamba where you would hear every single day in the news, women got killed, women got pushed out of a window from the 8th floor or something like that. And, it was like normal. So we talked to them and we said, so what do you think? It could be your mom, it could be your sister, it could be your grandma, it could be a friend of yours. And they were like, yeah, that's really bad. So would you be willing to write a message for other men to stop doing that? Because men that are doing these things are adults. And maybe if you would tell them something as a young man, they will listen to you. And they were like, yeah, sure. So they started making these very nice drawings, and we can see some of those afterwards. And they were just saying like, stop violence. It could be my mom or something like that. And we created a hashtag, tú eres parte de la solución, which is you're part of the solution. And we will asking, would you be willing to be pictured? And we will post this on Facebook. And they were, yeah, of course, sure. Because then they are showing this and they are standing for that, literally. So we did it and we started posting it, everything. We had a lot, like we had thousands because we went to many schools. And then we told them we're going to pick the best ones. And the best ones went to the radio, to the TV, and to newspaper. Because social media is very important. It's a powerful tool. It reaches a lot of people. But I would say in societies as our society, still Latin America, mass media is still very important. TV, radio, newspaper. So I don't know what's the case in Poland. But so we started there, trying to raise awareness on boys so that they can say your mind. So you realize what a boy think when they are young and what changes there that they turn into a man that is capable to murder a person or to murder a woman. So then we started like just going further, like no longer 12 years old children, but just 14 years old children, and then going 17 years old, like we were going higher and higher. And it had a great, great impact. That was, and it costed only some sheets of paper, some pens, and that's it. Good photographer. You can even do it with your phone.
Yeah, what I hear from you is that just everybody can start it.
Yeah.
Nothing is needed, just a good idea.
Yeah.
And you also answered another question, because I had a question from Marek, who was asking what was the age of children that you started to work with. You mentioned that were 12 years and then 14, then 15, right?
We start the whole process since early childhood. As we start with 4 years old children, so preschool, because that's the whole school system in Bolivia. It starts in preschool, so we were allowed to go there. We even work with puppets, telling them what violence is, videos, and this really works because I remember a man coming to my office and saying, yeah, you know, I wanted to talk to you because nobody told me that there was a puppet show today going on. And I went to pick up my son and he wasn't ready. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm not the person who must tell you, but it's something administrative that had to happen before in school. And he said, yeah, okay, it's okay. But I would like to be informed next time. And I was like, okay. And next time the same father came to me and he said, wow, it's amazing because I was just saying something to the mom of the child. And he said like, hey, dad, like you are being rude because we saw in the puppet show that this and this and that. And this is touching for a father. And so that here comes the next stage. We started asking as well girls and boys, what was the favorite time with their fathers? Like what was the best time with their fathers? And most of the, I'm asking about very short age, like generations of 5-7 years old. And they would say like, yeah, when my daddy makes pizza sometimes, or when my daddy helps me with math, you know, those little things that maybe parents, well, maybe fathers do not do very often. And we were making a video. Of course, we have the permission of mothers. That's very important when you work with children. You have a very strict child protection policy. So they would say what they like. And we show this to their fathers on a video, on a screen. And they were like, just what, they didn't know what was it about. And they were just watching it. And they were in tears. And we asked the children, so what would you like your father to do this more often? Yeah, of course. And I would like this and that. And we were asking these fathers whether their own fathers did it with them. They were like, no way. My father would never, ever help me with homework, or no, my father would never sit with me and cook or help me with anything. Like, you know, fathers, maybe our grandparents were just working, making some money, and then sitting at home on the couch and watching TV or reading the newspaper. And so they were like, and we were telling them, so would you like to do this more often for your children? And they were like, yeah, totally. I didn't know they would appreciate it that much. So I'm going to do it again. And I'm going to do it more often. And that's the way you change masculinities. And that you change this shared responsibility of raising kids in men. And you can find all this on our Facebook account and maybe on our YouTube account, Huellas Futuro. I'm going to send the link afterwards. So those are videos that you can see the children talking. Maybe you're not going to understand because it's in Spanish. But you can still see the quality is not like the best quality because it was the first 5 years of our work. But those kind of tools are not so expensive, and you can really use them to raise awareness.
Great. I have also a question, because I know from my experiences that everything is not so easy. It is easy to speak about this after you achieved a success, but probably during your way there were many different obstacles. Could you mention some of them and how you dealt with them?
Sure. Like, it's not easy. I always say I'm a very positive person. It's not easy, but it's it needs to, you need to have a lot of courage. And even if even worse if you're a female. Like in my case, I was leading the foundation or the NGO, and I was going knocking some doors and trying to talk to people. And as soon as they see you young and woman, it's like, oh yeah, sure, yeah, of course, yeah, thank you, you know. But you have to be persistent. That's very important. I would say, like, if you receive a no, that means you're gonna knock more doors, but once you're gonna receive a yes. So yeah, my first challenge was, I would say, being young and being a woman. And as I told you before, it doesn't matter if you can study abroad or you can't afford maybe a master's degree or whatever. But if you're an activist and you want to be good at what you're doing, you have to learn. You know, now we have a lot of access to different resources of like you know, tutorials, videos, a lot of material that you find just in Google for free. So you have to study, you have to learn, you have to be the best at it. So I would say that when I realized that my first weakness was being, of course, a woman, because yeah, it's hard in such society. And then being young, they think, okay, she's just a dreamer or she's just an activist. But if you have learned and you have studied and you know what you're talking about and you know how to do it, you can prove it. The moment you start talking, people will start hearing you. People will start listening to you. So the other challenge that I faced was that we do not receive support from public institutions. I'm not talking about funding, because that's another issue. Like, we really do not receive any funding from the state, but like, just meaning this moral support, like, hey, you're doing great and we want to work with you and you guys are having a great impact, so we are supporting you. This didn't happen because we were in a very, very bad political time, I would say, because it was completely change of what was before and a new constitution, and yeah, it's a lot of political issues that are not worth it to mention right now. But this is something that we must work on. Like, if you don't have support from state or any public institution, you have to work on that. You have to. It's very hard if you're civil society. It's very hard to achieve anything if you don't have partnership with public institutions, with authorities, with leaders. So that's another thing we realize. If we are not aligned or supported or in partnership with public institutions, we're not going to move very much. We're not going to move forward that much. So that's another point I would like to stress, to make partnerships. We can be capable of anything, but we are not capable of everything. So it's very important to see where your weaknesses are and start partnerships. Yeah, and maybe I could say the other challenge, I don't want to talk about the financing challenge because everyone knows how it goes, I would say. But beyond that, another challenge is to get more men involved. To get, like, really, I remember once having a father who was a policeman and came and say, hey, what are you doing? Like, you're doctrinating our kids on feminism and this very cheap feminism, you know, like, because the word feminism per se it's very misused, I would say. Like, so we were explaining to this gentleman, no, we are really trying to look for equal opportunities and to prevent violence, because for us, violence is the root cause of any other social problem, any other criminality, gangs, corruption, anything comes from violence for us. So under our philosophy. So we explained to him and he was like, no, I don't want to take part of it. I really don't like it. I hate it. And he was the father of a girl. And the girl was 7 years old or something. So he said, whenever there is a workshop, my girl is going to go out of the room. I was like, okay. So I was like really thinking, it's very hard to approach or to tackle such profiles like militaries, policemen, because maybe they are taught to be rude, strong, you know, like the men. Maybe it's in the structure of their professions. So then I realized, okay, maybe we really have to go a little deeper. So we ended up making a capacity building training with 2,000 militaries in Bolivia.
How you did it?
Well, I'm telling you, partnerships is very important. So well, it happens to be that a good friend of mine was married to a military, and he was like, yeah, what do you do? And I said, I do raising awareness to prevent violence. And so, and he said like, oh yeah, you know, this is in the agenda of the militaries this year. Actually, I should work on that. I was like, yeah, I can do it for free, you know. I have my team and we are great at that. So he was like, yeah, that's great, but we are a lot. And he said, it's all those that will graduate as 2,000 in whole Bolivia. And I was like, okay, we're gonna do it, you know, like the how was not in my mind in that moment, but I said yes, because it was a huge opportunity for me to bring the methodology out. And, you know, militaries are all over the country and the whole territory. They even are in the edges of the country where no one reaches, not even policemen, not even, I don't know, like priests. So it was for me a great opportunity to really spread the methodology. So we did it. We did it.
And was it a one-time action, or you cooperate with them?
No, it was kind of a couple of times until they changed again, you know, like they have a structure and they got retired. It was like really the top militaries of the armed forces in Bolivia, and then, well, they got retired and they didn't do it again. But for me, it's perfect because the people who were trained were among the 25 years old to 35 years old. These people has already knowledge. They can replicate it. They can take it everywhere, and they can do it. They can practice it. So if you can teach 2,000 people that is going to become an agent of change, you're really tackling much more people than that. Because let's say one of these people is going to be leading in one squad of 20 people. That's already an achievement.
Great. I have some questions from people. The first question is from Piotr. If I understand correctly, he's asking about the workshops, so probably about your methodology. And if you go and do a workshop for probably a children or for a man or for the woman, is it a one time or is it a cycle of meetings? And how many hours do it takes to do it?
Okay, so I was told to speak slow. Martin, I hope I'm speaking slow. But yeah, I mentioned 5 pillars of our methodology, which is raising awareness, legal and psychological assistance, rehabilitation, capacity building, and empowerment. So the intervention of our methodology takes 2 years. Yeah, but you can do different activities that take a little longer or a little shorter, and you can still have the same impact. It shouldn't be just one-time action because it's an intervention. Like you come to them and you teach them what violence is. We do it normally through arts. And I will tell you my methodology. I would like to share this because it's something very amazing. I didn't invent it, I must say. But you do it one time and then you come after, let's say, 3 months and they have forgotten a little bit. You can refresh these concepts and they will recall some things, but it's not like they have it like very strong. So you have to enforce or reinforce this knowledge with other activities, definitely. Like we do the workshops not longer than 50 to 60 minutes, yeah, because they get tired and, you know, their attention is just 20 minutes, like fully attention is just 20 minutes. And then we ask them to do some theater or what they want to do, something, because it needs to be very active. Children need action, like children need to be very active. So they pay attention and they need to have a very experiential workshop. So they really take it home. And then you can start with different activities. What we do normally is we do this raising awareness process. And then we kind of cross information with principals, parents, psychologists, pedagogues, and teachers. And we see who of the children are having more issues. So we identify even cases of sexual violence, where we have to involve the public prosecutor, the state, or sometimes we just find some minor exposure to violence and we intervene directly. Like the psychologist calls them and says, hey, yeah, we saw that, let's say our child is having some issues in the school, and I don't know if you would like to have some counseling time with me, a psychologist. And then they go and they have to intervene with the whole system. So if it's a mother, a single mom with a grandma and 2 children, so all of them have to take part of it. And it's never pretending to blame the mother or the way they raise their kids. It's always trying to help. So we're very careful with language and how we approach the people. And sometimes in the system it's just father, mother, and 1 child or 2 children. So we have to intervene with the whole system. We never say, hey, we realize your children are going to school not regularly, which is already a sign of violence. We don't say that. Like, it's just, oh yeah, we've noticed this and that. Then we go deeper. That's the part of legal counseling and psychological assistance. And then we have to work with these children or families that are living particularly situations of violence and with the other children and other families. So we do a common activity. Let's say, and that's another way to involve men. Let's say we say, okay, let's do a theater night. So you guys prepare something and parents will come and watch it and take part of it. So we try to do these activities. And then we realized at the beginning, it was only moms. It was like really just from a class of 30 children, it was, I don't know, like 20 moms and 3 dads. And then the rest was just absent. And we thought, like, why are they never coming? It's like, oh, we have some, or we have to go to school for our children. And it's like, you go, it's like a decision. We realize, we ask, we find it out. It's like a decision. Yeah, you go because you're the mom and you're in charge of raising kids. So we started saying, we are going to give this counseling, psychological counseling for free, only to fathers or, well, parents that come with the fathers along and sign our attendance list. Because if the father is not there, not showing up, it's hard for the psychologist to intervene. So it was one manner, but it was not my favorite because it was kind of forcing them, right? Like they are just going because they have to go, so they will receive the attention of the psychologist. And then we thought, okay, let's do some soccer night or soccer weekend with the parents. And we were just, you realize who is the leader. You always realize these features on people who talk more, they intervene more, they ask more questions. So we go to them and say, would you like to organize a nice soccer weekend? We can provide with some beverage and, the ball, and we can do this and that. And they were like, yeah, of course. And we'll have some prizes. So men were coming. And just quickly before starting, we would just give a very short introduction of the project and what we do, and then it will start sporting. And then afterward, we'll come back again and say, thank you very much. Next time we see each other, please make sure of this and that. And then the males were just, we realized they were attending all workshops, they were attending all activities, they were leading the activities, we just thought this, in the case of this policeman, for instance, we asked him if he could make, I really wanted to involve him. We asked him to make a workshop on his profession for the kids, and we said we will really ask you to focus on involving girls as well, like not only the boys, because it's a profession that nowadays anyone can do. And he was like, yeah, of course, yeah, I'm gonna take a helper of mine, she's a police girl, so I'm gonna take my team. And he was like very happy to be acknowledged, to be part of us. And then he started really joining any activity we do. So it's like, I would say it's very customized with any. Yeah.
It's incredible how creative you are.
It's not only me, please. I have a huge, amazing team. Not huge in terms of numbers, but they are like just awesome. But I have a great team.
Great. I have some more questions.
Sure.
I will read them, and then you can choose if you want to answer them, which the first and which the second. So I have a question from Agata. She's also saying that you are very, very inspiring, and she thanks you very much. And she is asking, how do you measure the impact of your work, as it is very much on the level of a mind shift, and it is probably difficult to grasp. And the second question is, do you work on the violence between boys and boys and men?
Yeah.
Or
okay, great. Well, I'll come first of all to the metrics. That's for me I would say the key aspect of any project, activity, program, NGO, because if you cannot measure what you're achieving, then you're more or less doing nothing, because you cannot show it. First of all, you will not know what you're doing. You will not be able to understand yourself, what your impact is. And second of all, you will not be able to display to other institutions. And that's a key aspect as well. I've worked for a while in Terre des Hommes. I don't know if you're, if it says something to you. It's an institution, a huge institution, as well in aid intervention. And they have a lot of projects in Latin America and as well in Africa. And that was the most important aspect of a project, to fund the project, like to send money to them. You know, if you don't measure your impact, like really you have to rethink the way you were working. So I know it's very hard to measure social behavior, because it's not the same like giving or providing some jobs and then you know how many people is working, how many people is unemployed, how are the salaries and so on. But in this case, I've studied a lot. So I would suggest you can use Lederach. It's a writer. Well, it's a researcher on impact change. Lederach, Jean-Paul Lederach. Now I told you. I can also write it down, so please remember me. And we work on 4 levels of change. The first, well, it's not just an order, but just to mention, it's 4. It's cultural change, social change, economical change, and political change. So we measure our activities and our impact on these 4 levels. What we do for our monitoring and evaluation system is, first of all, to have a basis. Sorry, it's like you have to know how is the population you're going to work with. You have to know, let's say, how many women are in there, how many maybe cases of violence, how many femicides are in the region, how many cases already taken to the public prosecutor, how many convictions, and so on. Like you have to have baseline. This data you have to collect before you go in, before you do your intervention. And then after your first pilot, or maybe you've done already a pilot, but after your project, then you have to measure how were those indicators. They were one way before you started your intervention, and they must be different when you finish your intervention. You know, it's just a partial shift because it's just 2 years or 1 year. You know, for a proper input, you need like 10 years, 8 years minimum. So I would say you have this baseline before you intervene. If you don't have it and you've been intervening already, you must do it right now. And then you have to measure the very same indicators. Like how many people is now being prosecuted, how many women are being abused, and how many femicides we have this year, and blah, blah, blah. So mentioning again these 4 levels of change, we see if there is a shift in the behavior and in the attitude of the whole collective let's say, target group. Then you have achieved social change. Let's say, normally boys would never play soccer with girls, never. It was like a no-go. And nowadays we have teams with girls and boys mixed, and we have also teams of only girls. That's a shift. You have to pay attention. That's why you need this baseline. And that's why you need to like prepare and think very, very carefully your indicators. Then we talk about the cultural issue. So at the beginning, only like what I just said, like only moms were going to the workshops, we're attending all activities we were doing. But now parents, let's say fathers, are also attending our activities. And now it's a custom, like everyone comes, let's say fathers and mothers, like parents both. And that's a cultural shift because something has changed. It's not only women that are taking care of raising children and the children's issues, but it's also men, it's also the fathers. Economic change, it's very hard because you have to move something in the economy, you have to improve something in their economy, which you can notice in, for instance, that they have changed home and they have increased their living conditions. They have a new income because the woman decided to go working. You know, this it's a little harder. But if you've done it through your project and you can measure it, then it's economic changes. And you know, you can also measure this with social security. Like before, they were not part of the social security. I don't know how is this in Poland, but in Bolivia is not something compulsory. Like you access social security if you have a good job, or if you have, or if you're working in a big company that can afford take you into the social security. And the political change, and that's something I would really like to talk deeper about later on, is when you achieve that a local norm or a national norm, or maybe just a regional norm, when you achieve this has been launched. Let's say, well, we as Huellas Futuro have intervened in 2 laws already for violence prevention in our department in Cochabamba. And you can achieve this only if you have switched something at the political level, where authorities state this institutionalized and legally that you must do this and not do that. Like it can be a law, it can be statutes, or it can be any rule that comes from the state. So those are the 4 levels of change that we measure.
Great. And how about working about the violence between boys and boys and men and men?
Well, we believe that violence, I told you before, is the root cause of any other problem in society. So I would say violence as such is really bad. Like I wouldn't say violence against women it's worse than violence against men or men against men. So we work departing from violence prevention and domestic violence prevention. We work on bullying in schools. We work on violence against men. You're going to find a video on our YouTube channel that is called Violence Against Men, because there is a phenomena in Bolivia that since we have the law, like every woman can take the law and take more advantage and say, yeah, I'm a woman, you know, he was just I don't know, like he was being abusive to me, and he doesn't have any right to see my children, you know. I don't know if this happens in Poland, but this can be a case of violence against men. The women are taking advantage of this narrative or of this new, let's say, propaganda like feminism, and we have to reivindicate the rights of women, and they take advantage of this. And they say, yeah, I didn't get the job because I'm a woman, or stuff like that. Or, yeah, you know, I didn't get promoted in my job because the boss doesn't like me because I didn't want to go out with him. Those kind of things that also happen. I'm not saying it happens everywhere, but it could be raising raising processes with women, because some women are single moms and they raise kids, boys and girls, and they must be somehow father and mother because they must. They don't have other option. And they give this framework to their children where you are the boy, so you have to do this and this and that, and you're the girl, so you have different roles. So sometimes women are perpetuating these patriarchal practices. So then you have a boy who is being raised only by women, only, let's say, grandma and the old sister and the mom, but he's still chauvinistic because the women are also chauvinistic. So we disregard a lot the gender when we are working. And if we have a case of violence against men, for instance, or issues against men against men because of discrimination, or because, some other issues, we also provide psychological support because it is within the system.
When I'm hearing you, I imagine your rules are so universal to dealing with different issues and problems. I see being so one and creative and aware of different moments that are and opportunities that can happen, as you told, with military or police. It's great. I imagine, do we have any more questions? I see that most of the questions were from men. It's interesting. And only one from Agata. And do we have another questions from anybody? I'm curious. If not, I'm also interested what you think are the biggest challenges that are for the coming years. What are you working on right now?
Well, I would say we are facing a very hard moment on education due to the large, I don't know if you've had lockdowns, like really, really bad, like ours. In Bolivia, we had almost 3 months lockdown, totally. So no school for almost a year. Of course, the government tried to start this virtual schooling, homeschooling, but it's not affordable for every parent to have computers and Wi-Fi and a lot of devices. You have to have 3 children. You have to choose who is going to do the class today. And this is very, very sad. So this is the case in Bolivia. I don't really know in Poland, but homeschooling has been very challenging. And we realized that we lost track on our girls. Because if you have poor families, because let's say now we used to be a poor country, one of the poorest in South America. And now with the pandemic, it has increased a lot. Like even the UN said that we are not going to reach any of our goals of the SDGs for 2030 because the economy is broken, right? So imagine what happens in weak economies as ours. So if you have children that do not access education, that's a huge challenge. Not right now. It's in the future when they have to perform, when they have to bring money, when they have to be creative, when they have to start ventures and businesses, And the worst part of these, and I will tell you with an example, is that girls and boys, let's say in a house, they don't have internet, they don't have computer, they just have one phone. So they choose, okay, you're going to make class today and I am going to do it tomorrow. And then no, it's not working because the teacher doesn't accept that I go just sometimes. So you just continue because normally parents choose the boy rather than the girl, or the boys that are not accessing school. They just go with the parents to work and make some income, and the girls stay at home and they start doing domestic work because that's chauvinism. And I'll tell you now the example that we've experienced, just going through 25 families to ask how they were this year in February. I was like, so how are you going? Are you doing homeschool? How is it your family? You know, a lot of households joined together, a lot of families. Like, I was paying my rent, but I'm not able to pay my rent anymore because companies close and I don't have any jobs. So they go back with their other relatives. They share home. So they don't have a lot of internet or access, or they don't have internet, computers. And the girls start cooking, cleaning, helping take care of other children of the family, not even their siblings, but the cousins. And we've gone through these 25 families to ask how they were, because we wanted to go to follow up on their lives and to see how they were going. And 2 of them with girls, one with 15 and the other one with 17. The one with the one 15 years old, she said she was pregnant. And the one 17 years old in the last year of school, also pregnant. One was about to give birth and the other one was already 5 months pregnant. And we asked her, are you gonna go back to school? And she was like, of course not. It was just in 25 families. And then we thought like, oh my God, this is not happening, because this was just, I don't know, you can make the math, but 2 families in 25, it's a lot. 2 girls out of 25 families, it's a lot. So imagine what's happening with the other girls that are not going to school. They are kind of doomed to stay home to help with the household and raise other children. And maybe they get pregnant of the boyfriend, or they get pregnant of the uncle, or, you know, the godfather. So that's a very bad reality we're facing right now. I would say that's the main challenge. We are losing track of our children, of our girls, that because of this lack of schooling.
Sure. In Poland, we had more than 7 months of lockdown, so it is an issue for us as well. You answered one of the questions. I will read it. Maybe you will add something, and I have another 2 also. Did you observe any deterioration in psychological conditions of kids due to pandemic? In Poland, it's a serious problem, especially for kids experiencing domestic violence.
Sure. We have realized now it's a very complicated problem in countries that there is no money, right? Because most of the income comes from informal trading. Informal trading, that you go to streets, you sell something, or like you're not really part of the system. You're not part of the value chain. So they cannot go out, so they cannot make money. A lot of enterprises, like small and medium enterprises, companies that close down, you're not employed anymore. So you are at home, stressed because you have no money. You cannot make money. Your children are the whole day at home. You have no money to pay the rent, so you're going to move with your parents or with your cousins or whoever, and then you start, of course, to become anxious, aggressive, and you discharge this against your wife or your partner or your children. That's of course the case. So we realized this was happening. We realized already, well, because we were trying to follow up on that in April 2020, last year, because we started the lockdown in March and schools closed in March. So in April, we thought, okay, what's going on with people? And we created a tool, a very simple tool. I repeat, like, it's not a lot of science behind. It was with Google Forms. It was a form asking, how are you? Like, you can make a review on your situation from 1 to 5, whether you are living under violence conditions or you're exposed to any sort of violence. And you could say, like, if you ask intervention from 1 to 5, if you need intervention. It was a tool that was launched, and we tried to spread it as much as possible to reach as much as possible the women or children. It was also for children, like we had different tools, but it was based on Google Forms. And we realized it was not reaching the people that needed this help. because they don't have a phone, or they don't know how to use it, or they cannot access a lot of internet. So we thought, well, yeah, the only thing we can approach these people is WhatsApp. So we started asking through WhatsApp on our list, so how is it going? But it's hard. Like I cannot say we succeeded. We didn't, because it's very hard. People need support. So a lot of efforts were done by other institutions providing on free toll lines to call them and ask for some advising, you know, some psychologists online, let's say. But it doesn't get the people that really needs it. That's the problem in our country. I don't know what's the case of Poland, but it doesn't. Because you have a person who knows how to use the internet and how it goes, calling a person from WhatsApp and telling her or him your problem, and hearing some hope or some hopeful advice. But if you are a person that live in a rural area and you have no access to internet, or just very few access to data on the internet, and you're really hopeless.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Probably in Poland we don't have such a problem with internet access, but it is not always so easy to honestly tell somebody that there is a violence involved. There is an interesting story in Poland. There was a girl who started to do a Facebook group, like a shop for flowers. And it was a secret code that if you want to order a flower, then it means that you need to help. So thousands of people were involved in this initiative. Well, I have so many questions here during our conversation. Asking for a question is a good idea. Very nice questions from Martina. It is really interesting how you put violence as a root cause for other social problems. It's a great insight for me too. What are the most important components of anti-violence education, if you had to put it into a program?
Okay, I would say non-violence programs must be, can you say transversalized or transversal? Because you have to think that this is not a problem that can be solved just half an hour every week or half an hour every 2 weeks. So it must be something you live almost daily. And that's why I said like some key actors or key aspects. And let me say it again. I would say the first thing is to work within the system, like under a systemic approach, community-based approach. Like you have to do partnership with the local authority from your community. You have to meet people who is very, you know, that have leadership. Then you have to talk with principals, with teachers, with boards of different institutions, and try to get them on board on your project. That's the first thing. So everyone talks the same language. That would be a very good beginning for starting a non-violence program. Then you have to use the power of media, social media and mass media. I would say if you can get 2 or 3 channels, TV channels, that could give you, let's say once a week, I don't know, 5 minutes to talk about something, you've gained a lot. Like you've really nailed it. I don't know how you say it in Poland. But I would also say, if you can work with social media, with local leaders and with different actors, like just not one sector, you have to involve as much as possible actors from many different sectors. If you work with them and you get them to know the benefits of the project, of the program, then with this, because these people will back you, then you can go to a political level. Then you can go to the mayor of your city, or I don't know if there is another level under mayor on your case, guys. And then you go and say, hey, I have this program, I have these people who is backing me, I have these results, and we need a law, or we need to do this. So my idea is always to work with the grassroots very closely. Like they know you, like they know your ideal, your passion, the benefits of the project, and you are working with the leaders. And then you're ready to go to the political level. And many people ask me, how did you achieve to be part of this law? And it's not that, you know, like just go and say, hey, I have this law, it's a proposal, I've studied peace and conflict transformation, I'm an expert, and here you have, and please implement it. It's not like that. Because a law or any rule, like a collective rule, arises from a need, a common need, but you have to make aware people of this need. And that's why you have to raise awareness. So it's kind of a chain.
Okay.
I don't know if it answers the question.
And Martina, if you want to know something more, just ask. What is interesting, we have one policeman with us, and he's very curious about the story with policemen in Bolivia, and he's asking, do you think that police in Bolivia think about violence as something superficial and shallow, or they really go deep into the problem and you see them engaged in it?
Yeah, it's very sad because we've created, well, the state have created a police division, particularly to observe cases of domestic violence. So we have a police specifically for domestic violence. It has not longer than 5 years maybe, and it has a different commandant, and you know, a lot of people working in there, and it has women and men as well. But you send a woman there because we do this in counseling, right? We say you have to go to the police, and you have to say that because you're being abused. Well, that's not our first approach. Let's say in a very bad case of sexual violence or harassment. So they go, and there is a male or a man talking to them, asking them, and not understanding anything of what she has been going through. So it's because they do not receive these capacities, or they are not trained with these capacities to approach a case of domestic violence. So people lose the trust in these institutions, and they say, no, I don't want to go to police. Like I'm sure there is a case in Poland where women would say, no, I don't want to go to police because they re-victimize me. They are gonna, you know, like spread my case. It's gonna be public, and they are not going to do anything, you know, because you don't trust them. So I would say in Bolivia we have this problem as well, because we don't have strong institutions. We have people that is working in this area. We as Huellas Futuro, as an institution with other institutions from civil society and public institutions, provide training to these people on protocols to address these cases and to assist these women. And then after 3 months, they are gone. They go to other department, or they are promoted, or they just change, because the law of police is like that. They have to move and they have to rotate, and so it doesn't work like that. You know, then you've been building a very nice team that is very capable to understand those cases, and they can really undertake something meaningful and sustainable in the police station, but then they change. So you have new people, and they do exactly the same. They diminish this trust that people have in institutions. So I don't know how it's in Poland, but I wouldn't say the police takes this topic as like shallow or like they are not interested in. It's just they lack proper training. Like the state do not invest a lot in them, in training them.
True. Probably in Poland is the same, or maybe Marek can tell us more. And I have a question from our organizers from Sztama. There is an educational method called Sztama, which we are in the process of creating at Her Story Foundation, the organizer of the webinar. And we are at the point running a training school for men who will be future anti-violence educator for boys. We are focusing on role modeling and the role of socialization for gender roles. Do you see any difference in the work of any interesting observations when it comes to male educators versus female educators when working with boys? Is it a good idea for men working with boys?
Yeah, well, I like it because you know they feel identified. I must say on that we pick a lot and we make partnership with personalities like celebrities in Cochabamba. Like we pick let's say singers or performers or soccer players, you know, male figures that can be role models. And we ask them as well to make their nice statement and stand for it on a picture for Facebook or social media. So we use a lot this role model picking is very important because you have to pick the right role models, the right agents of change. And I would say it's very interesting that men teaches boys and takes part of this process or lead the process. But I would say it's important to have this balance. So we, among our facilitators, we have men and women. Because women and men see things completely different. Well, let's not say completely, but we do things differently and we see things differently. So it's important to have both, to have this nice diversity of opinions. So I would say it's a great idea that men lead these processes of these schools for boys or changing masculinities. But on the other hand, it's also important to have women so they get used to be led by a girl. You know, just 2% in the whole world of CEOs are women. So 98% of CEOs in the world are men. That's why, so men have always, well, not always, but I would say men are not so comfortable in our cultures to be led by a woman because it's not normal. So I would really stress the idea of involving men and women equally, proportionally. And on the other hand, talking about this role modeling, it's also important to, if you're going to work already in this school, to try to display the process of learning and the outcomes to the social media. Because what we've done once, it was a contest of fathers, and we had like babies and they were like completely messy in their hairs and they had to comb their hairs to go to school. They had to feed the baby and they had to do this and that, you know, it was just a contest with prizes. It was just to see their performances, but everyone wanted to be perfect, all of the men. And women were laughing, of course, because maybe they thought, okay, they have never done this, or yeah, they are really bad at this, but they realized it's not that difficult. And when we posted this on the social media, it was awesome because you saw more reactions of men than women saying like, oh yeah, I can teach you how to do it. I do it every day with my girls, you know, or yeah, that's crazy. I'm going to give you some tips to feed the baby, you know, like, and then we saw like a lot of people were participating like with insights of different masculinities. So yeah.
In Poland, we have a situation like, I don't know the exact metrics, but probably 95% of teachers and psychologists are women. And do you face obstacles in engaging men into the role of educator?
No, not in Bolivia, but it's the same. I would say like we have from every 20 teachers, we have like maybe 4 men, so 20%. But you know, it's maybe because in Bolivia, I don't know the case in Poland, but in Bolivia, it leaves you some time for your family when you are a teacher. Like you have to teach the whole morning or the whole afternoon, and then you have like part-time free, and that's why maybe more women pick to be a teacher, because they will have more time to raise their kids. But what if we switch the mentality and like men and women can take care of children, so men and women can access any job they want?
Yeah, I have also a question from Isa. She's first of all, want to thank a lot. It's very inspiring what you say. And the question from Isa is, as a youth worker to a youth worker, what would you say about direct reactions when you observe violent behaviors among youth or teenagers? I sometimes feel like there is too much tension between 2 or more boys, and I have not enough of their attention and not enough tools to react properly. Do you have any tips how to react?
Yeah, okay. We have, we also, what we did with the military was this interruption of cases of violence, episodes of violence. So what we always say to the children is the first answer to violence episodes, not violence in general, but just violence episodes. What I'm seeing right now, you know, if I see a couple fighting or if I see boys fighting, the first answer is interruption. And never forget that, interruption. It doesn't matter how. Like, you know, if sometimes we see a couple fighting or, you know, like they are just yelling at each other and it's gonna scale, you just come nearby and you see your phone and you're just like, you know, and they will just feel intimidated and they will get interrupted. It's exactly the same when you see boys or yeah, well, any person in a situation of violence, like you have to interrupt. And a very powerful way to interrupt is, of course, a peaceful means. Like even, you know, if you hear it on your neighbors, a huge screaming thing, and you think, okay, they are really going crazy, you go and ring the doorbell. They come out and you say, do you have some sugar? Sorry, you know. Or like, you know, if you don't know them, you just ask, and does this person live here? And that's it. So I would say, and I always tell the children, like, what happens if you use fire sticks? Like you have one fire stick here and the other one here, and you turn it on. And what happens if you put another one here? What happens with the fire? And they say, yeah, it will increase. Of course, it will get bigger. It's exactly the same when you intervene in acts of violence with violence. You know, like when, I don't know, I've seen once and it was really wild and I don't know what are you gonna think about this, but there were 2 boys fighting in school and a teacher went with water, you know, like some water on them. And I was like, okay, maybe that was a way of interrupting, but it was not the best way. So it's very important that we think about interruption methods or strategies, because it can be completely different from one case to other case. But you can always interrupt an act of violence, not getting involved. So I don't know if that answers the question.
Probably yes. The question was very specific, and I have also the question that is more general. What kind of world would you like to see in the future? And what is the change you are trying to achieve in the future?
Well, I would like to see a world where everyone has the same opportunity and the option is in your hands. From, you know, choosing wearing the way you want to wear, choosing the work you want to work on, the career you want to do, the job you want to do, but you know that the option is there and you can choose it. Because now sometimes it's just, as I mentioned, like women opt for these very not minor jobs, but jobs that are more compatible with the family life, because they are not given another option. But what if the policies would be made for men and women that they have to take care of their children? Or, you know, in the case of, I don't know if you have this maternal leave. Do you have it?
Yes.
Do you have a father leave?
It changed, and now we have, but the duration is shorter, right?
Yeah, of course. So let me tell you something, and I was working on that on my PhD. So if you have a woman very good qualified and a man very good qualified, both, but both are in a reproductive age, if you pick the woman, it's going to cost much more money to the state and to the company or whoever is hiring her than picking the man, because she's going to be pregnant and she's going on maternal leave, and you have to pay her for, I don't know, 3-4 months, although she's not working, and maybe she will continue raising her child or her children for some more years, and until she goes back to the job, then we lost our, I don't know, our product, our strategies as company. But if both cost the same amount of money, which is not the answer, I'm just saying, if both would be the same thing, like, okay, if this boy will become a father, this guy will become a father, he also needs to go on father leave, and he has to receive some bonuses, and he can be out of the job for 1 year, unpaid for, I don't know, like 7 months, but paid for 3 months, you know. Then you think about the person, really the person. You say, yeah, it doesn't matter who, because anyways, mother or father, I have to spend the same amount of money as a company, but I want the best person for this position. So then you have the equal opportunities. And it's a choice of a woman to stay at home and raise their children, but it's also a choice to continue career and share this responsibility with her partner. So I really see a world where opportunities are equal for both, and not only men and women, also talking about LGBT group, and a world where there is no longer femicides.
Great. And what could I wish you to achieve in the next 3 years, let's say?
No, you have to formulate again the question, sorry.
What would you like to achieve for the next 3 years? And I can cross my fingers and help you.
Okay. Well, I would like to scale our program, like we can really take it abroad, Bolivia, Latin America, let's say, in the next 3 years. I would really like to achieve 0 femicides in Cochabamba, our region where we are based on, in the next 3 years. That's already on our agenda. And well, and I would like to see maybe in 3 years our methodology being spread in different languages for different organizations. Yeah.
I think that going international in Poland, you will have at least 20 volunteers after this webinar, and I will be one of them.
Thank you so much. Well, you know, let me tell you something that we didn't talk about before, and this goes to this, the spreading the methodology, talking about these 5 pillars. I told you before, like, we realized at the beginning, well, we were working on these 4 pillars, right? And then we added this empowerment pillar at the end, because we realized we can raise awareness, girls are completely aware of their rights and what violence is, and you know it's working, and the boys are no longer being rude to them or whatever you wanna say. And we have a decrease on cases in the police station against cases of domestic violence, let's say. But then you still have this certain group of women that are being abused, and they don't want to leave their homes. They continue. I had cases where women come after our workshops and they say, hey, you know, I really loved it. I know I'm being abused. I know, like, my husband beats me up. I would like you to talk to my husband and tell him, please do not do any act of violence against the children, because it affects the school, because that's what I talk a lot. I say, like, the performance of children, of course, is affected when they see episodes of violence. And I said to her, and she said, hey, and I don't care if he beats me up, but just not to my children. And she had 3 children. And I said, what do you think the children do when they come to school? If they know you're being beaten up, if they see you, I don't know, with a black eye or crying, do you think they come and they learn anything in school? Do you think they come and have fun? They have friends, they make nice friendships? Of course not. I said, it doesn't matter if you are beaten up and they not, because they see violence, they are witness of violence. So it's exactly the same thing, or even worse. And she says, yeah, but you know, I cannot leave him. And I say, why? Because I don't work. I've never done anything in my life, only raising my kids, cooking, and, you know, like domestic tasks. And I say, okay, I'm a lawyer. I'm going to help you. He's going to give you alimony for the kids, but you must leave him. And we are going to do that. And she says, like, no, because, you know, no, because he won't see them and it will affect them. And, you know, and then I realized it's this lack of confidence. So we know, we realize it's not enough to raise awareness, to provide with psychological, legal support, rehabilitate, capacity building, replicate the project. If you don't give women the tools to say, enough, I go away and I start my life. So we adapted the project to provide women that are ready to leave their abusive husbands or partners and start a venture, a small venture. So we provide with technical support, and we provide as well with seed capital, like small amounts of capital, which is a micro lending process. So they have to give it back, but they do it in groups with other women. So they started making money, they regain their confidence, and they decide to leave their partners, well, violent partners. And then is when you really cut this chain of violence. Because if women are sure they want to leave and they have nothing, they have nowhere to go, they have never worked, they feel so underestimated, they will never leave. They will continue on their children are gone from home, and they will, you know, then the children will have this trauma and they will go away, but they will repeat the same history. So that's why we added this empowerment pillar, which is very important. And if there are people there listening to me that had maybe would have the power to provide with this element, like help women to regain confidence, self-esteem, to know that they can do and achieve things. And if they could also manage to provide some capital, that would be awesome, because that's another part of the chain.
Right. And spreading the methodology and replication. Can your methodology be accessed somewhere? Do you have it in English, for example, so that it can be learned by different people, different countries?
Yeah.
Or in Polish, probably not, but in English we can translate.
Well, I've written my master's thesis on violence prevention, well, gender-based violence prevention, but it's particularly written for Cochabamba. It's in English, it's accessible. I can also give you the link afterwards. I can give you the link. But you'll find a lot of tools. It's a thesis, so it's quite long. But I would like to start working on preparing a manual. We have manuals in Spanish, so we give it to the principals and teachers in schools to address situations of violence. But yeah, I would like to do this material. Actually, that's one of my goals for the next 3 years, like to be able to create a guideline to approach this topic.
Great. We have like last 10 minutes. So if somebody have a question, please, this is the great time to ask. If not, I have one question, not to you, Daniela, but to other people that are attending. Maybe each of you could write one word or one sentence, what inspired you from Daniela. What do you think you could do with this new knowledge that you gained? For me, it was very inspiring, and the 17 different violence types. This is something that I'm interested in. Probably, maybe I know like 10 or more, but probably not all of them. This is very interesting for me. So what you learned from Daniela, and last two questions, if you have any. And we will see.
Okay, while people is writing, maybe I can tell you about the 17 types of violence. Like you can find them in the law, but I would say myself, it's a little broad. Like maybe it's because it's very detailed, like violence in workplace, violence in social security, violence in political stages. So it's a lot of, let's say, scopes where violence can be practiced against women. But I can say that all of them are condensed in these 4 types of violence we address with the children, which is physical violence, we have psychological violence, sexual violence, which can be also just, you know, this, I don't know if it happens there, like just molesting girls and not necessarily accessing intercourse. And the last one is misogyny. Like when we have the video, I don't know if it's worth it to show it now, but where we stigmatize women on the bad or under a bad concept. So like, okay, if someone was passing the light on red, or well, the traffic light on red, then you say, it was a woman. You know, you didn't see it, but you are automatically thinking it's a woman because it was a bad behavior, a bad practice. Or when you just feel this hatred against women, regardless what they are doing, you know, just because they are women, you know, like when you're in a meeting and someone raises their hand and says, I think this, and it's a girl or it's a woman, and you're there as a man, and you feel like, yeah, because it's a woman, I don't agree, you know, this misogyny. I don't know how you call it in Poland, but I would say these 4 types of violence would just condense all of types of violence. Maybe you can help me out with this because I don't understand some Polish. I can say dziękuję if it's something nice.
No, one is in Polish, because some people write in English, and I think we can encourage, because not everybody use English, so they can also type in Polish, and then I can translate. But it was my statement in Polish, so that the people can write in Polish.
That's really, really nice.
And you mentioned that there is some short movie that you can show us.
Yeah, I don't know if you have guys ready. It's just 2 minutes. Maria or Martina can help me out with this. It's in Spanish, so you can just hear it because the sound will help you, but don't pay attention on the words. Just see, and we can maybe talk about that.
We are just checking it. Give us a moment, please.
Sure.
And we
Maybe.
can cut it right before I talk in the video. So when I show up, to just cut it.
Yeah.
And we can also share it on the Facebook page.
Okay.
So that each of us who is attending the webinar then can look on the Facebook page and then look at this movie and also other interesting links that you can share with us. For sure, it would be very useful and interesting to see them.
And I'm gonna post and I'm gonna put a link right now of my thesis. I've studied peace and conflict transformation in Switzerland, and I've studied development, security, and conflict transformation, international conflict transformation in Austria. So this is the thesis on my master's in Austria, which has to do with development, security, and conflict transformation. Yeah, I mean it's long, but you can find some tools if you read English, like if people can read English, so it's there.
Okay, thank you. I would like to thank you very much. It was so interesting, and you are so inspiring, and you have so much charisma. Really, thanks for this conversation.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
I would also like to to give the voice to Lena to say some final words. Lena, are you with us?
Tak, dzięki bardzo. Marcinie, przełącz się na inny kanał, żeby przetłumaczyć Danieli. Dobra. Daniela, czy już masz tłumaczenie?
Yes.
Okej, super. Ja ze strony Fundacji Herstory bardzo Ci, Danielo, dziękuję. To było niezwykle ciekawe, inspirujące wiedzieć, w jaki sposób pracujesz w innym kraju, na innym kontynencie, trochę w innej kulturze. My w tym momencie rozwijamy metodę pracy z chłopcami i dla nas każda taka inspiracja jest niezwykle cenna. I mam wrażenie, że bardzo uważnie słuchałam tego, co mówiłaś i od razu myślałam, jak możemy z Twojego doświadczenia, co możemy wziąć dla siebie i jak wzmocnić, ulepszyć naszą metodę, na co zwrócić uwagę. Więc bardzo Ci za to dziękuję. Było to dla mnie niezwykle inspirujące i edukacyjne. Też chciałam podziękować wszystkim osobom, które uczestniczyły w organizacji tego webinaru. Bardzo dziękuję Tobie, Wojtku, za prowadzenie. Dziękuję naszym tłumaczkom Joli i Magdzie. Dziękuję Tobie, Marcin, za tłumaczenie. Bardzo się cieszę, że jesteście tego wieczoru z nami i też tak informacyjnie jeszcze zachęcam do śledzenia naszej strony na Facebooku Sztama w edukacji na rzecz zmiany, ponieważ tam wrzucamy wszystkie informacje związane z naszym projektem, który właśnie skupia się na pracy z chłopcami i myślę, że w przyszłości też może z mężczyznami. Jesteśmy w trakcie szkoły trenerskiej, wrzucamy to, co się dzieje na bieżąco w tym niezwykle, jak dla mnie, innowacyjnym procesie edukacyjnym. I jesteśmy przy pierwszym webinarze, przed nami jeszcze 4 z 4 różnymi osobami. Najbliższy będzie w sierpniu, również we współpracy z Fundacją Ashoka, której również bardzo dziękuję. Tutaj Asia i Martyna jako załoga Ashoki. Dzięki za współpracę. Życzę wszystkim dobrego wieczoru, Tobie, Daniela, również. Odpoczywaj po dość intensywnej pracy intelektualnej, również Ty, Wojtku, i do zobaczenia wszystkim przy kolejnych okazjach. I w tym momencie również zatrzymuję live stream na Facebooku. Dzięki.